Ms. Britt, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Pam.
Unfortunately, we have to start with yet another mass shooting, this one happening in our own backyard just Thursday night. And we do know that on Capitol Hill right now that there's a bipartisan group of senators that are working. They have a framework and they're working to come up with now the language of what this perhaps gun reform legislation could be. Mitch McConnell has signaled earlier this week he would be on board with that. If you were in the Senate right now, could you see gun reform coming out?
You know, I believe that we have to protect the Second Amendment rights of our law-abiding citizens. And so I would stand firm on that. But to your point, we have to take a comprehensive look at what's happening in this nation. You look at schools in particular and the gut-wrenching tragedy that we saw in Texas. We have so many different ways that we can help protect our children. And I think that we've got to take steps to do that, you know, whether it's hardening.
What could some of those steps be?
So some of those steps could be, you know, hardening our schools. So we have a number of COVID dollars right now that have gone unused for our schools. Repurposing those to quickly put into action safety for our students when they come back in the fall should be of paramount importance. It's things like making sure the entry and exit points are secure, that we have the locking mechanisms on the inside of the doors. It is making sure that we have armed security guards at every single school across our nation.
But beyond schools, this
Right.
has happened at grocery stores and at churches.
And how it is gut-wrenching, and what it is saying is, as our society, we really do have to take a comprehensive look. One of the things that I've been talking about, and this isn't new, this is from day one on this trail, is mental health. Here in the state of Alabama, we rank 46th in the nation when it comes to access to mental health care. We have got to make sure that people across not only the state, but this nation have the resources they need to deal with the issues in front of them. That way they can be a productive member of society. What we've seen here, even in our own backyard, my heart goes out to these victims, to their families, continued prayer, and we're gonna have to have comprehensive conversations to get to the root of this, to make sure that we can get back to preserving the values of this nation and where people feel safe at church, at home, in the grocery store, or watching a football game. We're gonna have to have conversations and have to figure out how to move forward.
Just not wanting to put words in your mouth, though, just trying to confirm
Yes, absolutely.
this. You would not be in favor of the gun reform that at least this group is working on right now.
I have not seen a bill,
Surely,
and certainly
of
look
course.
forward to taking a look and reading that. But I do believe we have to protect the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. So taking away people's due process, you know, being able to just take that away, I think is a slippery slope that unfortunately will be a taking of our freedoms and liberties. So making sure there's a process in place to where if someone has a concern about someone, that it goes through the proper channels. Through the police, then just like when someone comes into your home, you know, making sure that the judge signs off on that, and that, you know, that we go through those proper steps. The moment we allow citizens to take away other citizens' due process rights, it is a slippery slope. So we've got to make sure there are things in place and that people know about what they can do to notify others. But protecting our Second Amendment rights will be something that I will stand firm on.
All right. Also on Capitol Hill right now, the House certainly has had hearings underway. We've gone through 3 of them. They have not painted former President Donald Trump in any kind of a positive light. He recently endorsed you in this campaign, and you have now are running ads on television showing that. A couple of questions. Did he contact you? Did he talk with you before that endorsement? And do you agree with him now that the 2020 election was stolen?
So first, I believe, and I have said numerous times, that there were problems with the 2020 election. We look at different things that happened in different states where they circumvented the laws that were on the books in the name of COVID. I think it is very important. We saw a lot of that tried to be codified with the liberal left through HR 1 and S1. And I have said specifically that I would be against both of those bills. I do believe in having a voter ID. I believe we have to stand firm against ballot harvesting, which we saw occur there. And also, I believe that your taxpayer dollars shouldn't go to people that you don't agree with or you don't want to support. So I feel very strongly about making sure that we do have free, fair, and secure elections, and that people.
Was 2020 not that, in your view?
I believe that there were issues there that gave people real pause, and when I talk to people across this state, people want to know their vote counts. And that is a fundamental part of our democracy.
Of course.
If people don't believe in our system, it will be a crack in our democracy that will ultimately cause it to crumble. I have said, getting to the bottom of those things, having a forensic audit would get us the answers we needed. Not only the answers for 2020, but would help us safeguard elections for the future, which is so important. And with regards to President Trump, I did receive a call from him Friday evening, and he said, we're going to endorse you. He said, I feel like you are the best to fight for the America First agenda. He said, it's time for new blood. He said, we need our next generation of conservatives to fight for these issues. And I do think that's what separated me on the trail is I've actually been talking about those issues, talking about sealing and securing the border and going into depth about not only for national security, which I'm sure you've seen since October, they have caught 50 people on the terrorism watch list at the border. Under President Trump, we caught 3. We have sent a signal that people can come over and that it's open. I believe we have to seal and secure it, not just for national security, creating an opportunity to increase American wages, and also in the humanitarian crisis, Pam, that's happening there every day. As we know, unfortunately, in this corridor between I-65 and 2059, human trafficking is at an all-time high. You look at that, you couple that with the fentanyl that's coming from China. There's enough fentanyl coming from China to Mexico across our border. It could kill every single American 4 times over. And I have sat across from parents all across this trail that have said, I have lost my child to a fentanyl overdose. And so having conversations about that, knowing that we have to hold China accountable, not just for that, but for undermining American workers, which we see right here in Alabama, from steel manufacturers to shrimpers, to stealing our intellectual property and defense capabilities, waking up to what's happening in the world, knowing we've got to go back to achieving peace through strength. And then people want to talk about here at home, Pam. I mean, when I actually, my husband is a bit of a giant. He's 6'8", 320.
Very tall.
Right? Can't miss the man.
No.
So I am used to people noticing him. I'm actually not used to being noticed myself. And I stopped at a gas station in Clanton, and a gentleman said, Katie Britt? And I said, yes, sir. And as we began talking, he said, I am 77 years old. I have worked my whole life. I did exactly what they told me to do. And he said, but I am here at this gas station because I am picking up the night shift because I cannot make ends meet. People want us to be energy independent and really energy dominant to help drive down cost. You look at inflation and the continued spending of federal government. There are real issues that people are dealing with, and they want leaders that will talk about those and that will put Alabamians and Americans first.
That was a long
answer.
That
I'm
was
sorry.
a long answer
so
about.
many things to talk about.
Do
I
you
apologize.
think that the 2020 election was stolen? Quick question on this one, though. Have you been surprised? I know you're on the campaign trail, but have you been surprised at the information that has been revealed? Like the way it's been revealed or not, but revealed in these 3 hearings that we've seen.
So I have not watched these 3 hearings. I have focused my time. We have a very short
On the
window
campaign.
between the primary and the runoff.
Gotcha.
We had 28 days, and we have focused on doing exactly what we did before the primary, which is meeting with Alabamians. So I went to every county in the state, every county, and really, it was the most rewarding experience because we have the greatest people and we have the greatest state and we have the greatest story to tell. And so we've continued to focus on that, spreading our message of new blood, fresh blood, having someone to go to DC to fight for our values and fight for our people. So that's been my focus.
All right, you've visited all 67 counties,
Yes.
but in the weeks leading up to this runoff, many, including the Alabama Republican Party, wanted to see you and your opponent debate.
Absolutely.
You were highly critical of Mike Durant before, and when he decided, no, I don't have time or I can't work this out in my schedule to debate. What's the difference now?
Yeah, so I would say, we had a year, obviously, to create a debate before the primary, and was really excited about that. Even excited about being able to do one in the runoff. Unfortunately, it became very clear with my opponent's behavior and the continual lies that he was not interested in talking about the issues. He was interested in having an opportunity and a platform to continue to spew those lies and create what I have
This
called
would not have have been the
A
first
circus.
debate that's happened in, though.
Right, and well, and we also too, we have been in a number of areas together. We have been all across the state at different forums, and every time, I choose to talk about the issues that are facing the people, he chooses to talk and to continue to spread lies about me. And so, unfortunately...
So you don't think people would have seen through that if that indeed is the case, and perhaps your campaign would have benefited even more with the debate?
You may be right about that, but really felt like that's not the image that I want out there for the state of Alabama.
Okay.
I want people to know who we are. I believe, as I said earlier, we're a great state with great people and a great story to tell. We don't always elevate the right people to tell that story. And I want to make sure that the people know how incredible this state is, that we talk seriously about the issues, that we are well versed, and that we have a plan. I don't want to be a part of anything that elevates dishonest rhetoric and also puts forth an image that I don't believe is who we are.
Okay, let's talk about a plan for what can possibly help Alabamians and every American out there right now. We are bleeding at the gas pump.
Oh gosh.
It's horrible. We are bleeding at the grocery
It
store.
is.
Supposedly, right now, even in fact this week, President Biden is said to be considering pushing Congress to suspend federal gas taxes. A suspension, a holiday, if you will, on those taxes. Would you be in favor of that?
I would. I absolutely would. But I think that is a mere Band-Aid, and I think we have to have a more comprehensive approach to actually fixing this problem. A couple of things that we need to do. We've got to finish the Keystone Pipeline. Now, I know that does not change things overnight, but what it does is it creates energy in the market that allows it to start to move again. You do that, you also allow drilling on federal lands, both oil and gas. It's interesting to me that we have more natural gas than any other place on the planet. And yet, and this is both domestic and foreign policy, we're allowing Russia to hold all of Europe hostage in the palm of its hand when we actually could be supplying that natural gas and really creating a buffer there between Russia and what it's doing. So doing that, and then also we know how the free market works. And so having a leader that encourages energy independence, that encourage diversity of energy versus saying things that shut down energy production, I think would be helpful. If you look at Biden, I think he's put 62 regulations on energy, new regulations. We've got to roll those back. I mean, for every, I think it's, 15 new regulations, there's a 1% increase in inflation. And we know that energy matters. It's not just the gas pump, it's the grocery store, it's fertilizer, it is everything, plastics, it's everything in between.
We need right now.
And Americans need relief. And so unfortunately, it is my belief we have a president that is working hard to make AOC feel better about our energy use, when the truth is we've got to put Americans first, find productive and responsible ways to do it, but we've got to drive down these costs immediately.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about a couple of ads that you have run. In one of your campaign ads, you're very critical of what you call career politicians, and I want to do this as a quote. You say, "I will hold career politicians accountable, put an end to their waste, and lower the cost for working families." Your former boss, the man you hope to replace, Richard Shelby, certainly is a career politician. He has contributed to your campaign. The super PAC of another career politician, Mitch McConnell, has also contributed to your campaign. Do you see any kind of a double standard there in what you're saying and what you're accepting?
So one of the things that I have done is make sure that people know exactly where I stand on issues. And so people who choose to give, and Senator Shelby, I believe, has given the $5,000 actually to my campaign for the primary and the runoff and then the general, but making sure that people know where I stand. And so if people are choosing to invest in my vision and where I want to take this state and this nation, they know what they're going to get. When it looks at career politicians, I think I probably should add in there do nothing career politicians. I believe that we have elevated a number of people that have gotten very comfortable living off the government dime, and they've forgotten what it is to just be a regular, hard-working Alabamian. I mean, they haven't pushed the grocery cart. They haven't filled up the gas, which, by the way, I filled up the Explorer 2104, didn't even get it to a quarter of a tank. I've got children, 7th and 8th grade, Wesley and I do, and we look at the nation and we don't recognize it anymore. And we believe it is time for our generation to wake up and step up at 40 years old and fight for them, or there's not going to be anything left. So when I see these things, what I want out of someone, I think a career politician, and I should add in the word,
Are you
do
gonna
nothing.
be one?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I should add in the word, do nothing. We have elevated a group of people that I feel like want to be stars on Fox News or get 892 retweets or MSNBC or whatever it is. And that to them equates success. To me, success is serving the people. Success is actually creating a solution to a problem and knowing what their needs are and fighting for them every single day. So when you come down and lecture instead of listen, that's when I think there becomes a real problem.
So I'll get you on record here then. If you are to be our next U.S. Senator, term limits for you? How long do we expect to see Katie
I love
Britt?
it. You're coming with it here. So I have actually signed the term limit pledge, which means that I will work for meaningful term limit legislation. So as you know, what we have to do is we have to pass that legislation and then we have to get it to the states. I really believe if we get that legislation to the states, it will pass overwhelmingly, and we will be able to have those. One thing that I think we have to be careful of is making sure that we don't put Alabama at a disadvantage. I am a big believer that that needs to apply across the board because unfortunately the system that we have in place right now is one that is built on seniority. And if we,
you get more the farther up the line.
Correct.
You go. Yeah.
And so it is very important that we have these conversations. And again, I have agreed to be a yes vote on all of them and trying to get it to the people so that it'll apply to everyone so that we don't have California and New York benefiting and Alabama getting in the back seat. It's very important that we fight for Alabamians and we make sure that they've got a seat at the table.
I know your time is limited, but I do have a couple of more questions if you can deal with me
Absolutely.
here. All right, wonderful. I like that. In another one of your ads, you said you were in a grocery store when you said it. No balanced budget, no payday, no paycheck. Yes,
that's it.
You're a lawyer,
yes,
and you know the Constitution, and you know that you can't go to Washington, even if you had everybody else on your side right now, immediately, and change how much you are paid or when you are paid. So was that political theater that we were seeing?
No, I really do think that there are ways. Obviously, we have to put an amendment on there, and there has to be, a multitude of things. But I think we have to call these people out for what's happening. You look at the fact that we have not balanced our budget in over 20. It's insane.
It's a long time.
You have to balance yours. I have to balance mine. The station has to balance theirs. Small businesses have to balance theirs, and yet we allow our career politicians in DC to continue to spend money that they don't have. I think we have to hold them accountable. We need a balanced budget amendment. I will introduce that on the first day. I also think in order to get there, I like Rand Paul's 5-penny plan, where you take 5.5 pennies off every dollar until you get to that balanced budget. We shouldn't be spending more than we have. To me, that is just common sense. And I think that our leaders in DC need to start using a little bit of it.